right, stepsons, quick lesson for you today. It's the fall. There's a storm coming in tomorrow, and actually it's starting to rain now. It's actually quite warm out there now, but it's going to start getting cold here where I live. So one of the things that you need to do in terms of preparing for winter is shut off the water to the sprinkler system. Of course, that assumes you have a sprinkler system. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. All right, while we're getting ready to turn the water off, let me just tell you a little bit about water systems on the houses. All right, we're going to go outside and let me show you a couple things. By the way, one is a tool that you need. You need this tool to shut the water off, at least on mine. This is long enough to reach down into the ground. Hopefully you can hear me over the wind. But where our water is on the outside is right here. Let me show you that. Right here is the tube that's buried in the ground. So this is put in, it goes down about 4 feet. And down there's a valve that will shut the water off to the sprinkler system, just to the sprinkler system in the yard. All right, over here, where I would shut the water off the whole house, on this valve. So this is what we would access if we wanted to turn the water off the house. All right, I showed you where you would turn the water off on the outside. It's out of the street, and there's the valve that we're going to shut off today is just for the sprinkler system. So the sprinkler system is buried only about 4, 5, 6 inches underneath the dirt. Where I live, that's above the frost line. Frost line depends on your climate. That's where the ground will freeze down to that level, depending on how cold it gets where you live. Any water pipes above the frost line are subject to freezing, and when pipes freeze, usually they crack and you get a leak somewhere. Okay, I'm down here in the bathroom where I sometimes have done shave videos and told stories. But let me show you in this closet. This closet is this is the utility closet. Okay, so in here, here's the water heater, here's the furnace. So there's the water main. If I actually wanted to shut the water off to the house, this is the first place I would come. I would turn that green valve right there, quarter turn, 90 degrees, and that shuts the water off to the house. And then you've got no pressure coming into the house. So that's the first place you would go if you needed to turn water off. We don't want to shut water off to our house. We want to just shut it off the sprinkler. So I'm not going to do that now. And by the way, newer houses will have more shutoff valves. Here's one for the water heater. If you can see the water heater, then there's a shutoff to the water heater too. So if you just needed to work on the water heater, you just turn that quarter of a turn, and now there's no water going into the water heater. All right, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to leave that on. But that's how you do it. If I did it down there, it would shut the water off to the whole house. You see that little pyramid looking thing right there? That is a pressure reduction valve. So what that is the water that comes into the city comes in at about 110 psi. A certain pressure, you want pressure, that's what makes water flow through your pipes. But it's a little higher coming from the city than you want it at the house. So that little valve actually reduces the pressure in the house to around 70 to 80 psi. If you get higher than that, then some of the pressure systems in your house, you might have problems like the water heater pressure relief valve might start leaking. So that's the purpose of that one. There's one other component I want to show you on indoor plumbing. This tank, you see that tank right there? That just pipes right into the plumbing, and that is called an expansion tank. What happens in indoor plumbing before they use these is you would sometimes get what they call water hammer. What water hammer is if you turn the water off suddenly, it's like slamming on the brakes when you got water flowing through, and it would bang the pipes. You hear this bang noise in the pipes, and they call it water hammer for that reason. Well, that expansion tank that I just showed you, that's filled with air. As long as it's functioning right, it hasn't failed, then it's a big air cushion in your pipeline. So when you shut water off that's moving fastly, it pressurizes in that and equalizes the pressure through the pipes through your household system so that you don't get that water hammer. So that's another component on indoor plumbing. I wanted to show you those before we shut off the water to the outside. Hopefully the rain is not so bad out there now that I'm going to be in a downpour showing you how to do that. That's what happens when you wait till the last minute to winterize your house or sprinklers. Okay, we've got a little break in the wind and the rain, so we're going to go shut that valve off now. While I'm out here though, let me show you the difference. I showed you that pressure reduction valve. In some houses like ours, we have 2 outside faucets. So this one, and they're called hose bibs. This hose bib comes from inside the house, so it's already gone through the pressure reduction system. Water that comes out of this one will be at lower pressure than the one that comes out of that one that I'll show you now. This one is plumbed straight to the sprinkler system. So this one has higher pressure than the one that goes to the house. So when I'm doing things outside, like spraying liquid fertilizer on the lawn through the hose, I like to use this outside one because it has more pressure. So a little bit of difference about those. One of the things you want to do when you winterize a house is never leave a hose screwed on to the outside hose bib. That's a source for leaks. I don't even know why, but I know someone that's a handyman, and he said that's the #1 cause of leaks inside a house. So whether it is or not, he said that, I trust it. So in wintertime, make sure you take the hose off of any outside hose faucets that you've got. Okay, this here is the pipe that goes down to the valve that feeds the sprinkler system. Okay, so now, if you look down in that hole, it's a valve. We just need to turn that valve a 1/4 of a turn. And this tool has that end. I put that over the end and then I turn it. And that's what we do to turn the water off to the sprinkler. So I'm going to do that now. Okay. So I'm putting this down in the hole. I've got a C down in here. Okay, so now I've got it straddling that valve, and I just turn it a 1/4 of a turn. I don't know if you can see it or not. But now that valve is faced a different direction, if you can see that. One way we can validate that it worked is come over to the external faucet, or hose bib, or water line, turn it on, and notice no more water. All right, stepsons, now you know how to shut off the water to a sprinkler system if you happen to have a sprinkler system where you live. And I'm going to give you some homework because I don't think I've done that before, but whether you live in a house or an apartment, here's what I want you to do. This is your assignment. Go take a picture of the water main or the place where you would shut the water off to your home. Find that valve, take a picture of it. Don't shut it off unless you need to, but don't mess with it. But find where it is so that if you do have a water leak, you know how to turn it off. All right. All right. I want to remind you a couple things. Post whatever questions you have about what you learned on sprinkler system, on housing plumbing in general, the system overall. What questions do you have for potential future videos? And also, what did you learn from the process? I'm curious what you learned, all right? And always remember 2 messages from every video that I want you to get. 1, you can succeed even though you don't have a dad in your daily life. And number 2, always remember your stepdad loves you. Share the channel, share it with your friends, and I will see you on the next video. Camera's over there. That helps.